Glasgow, the parties of the United Nations Climate Convention agreed on so-called Glasgow Climate Pact. And Glasgow Climate Pact put particular emphasis on 1.5 degrees Celsius target, while Paris Agreement temperature goal is stabilizing temperature rise between 1.5 and 2 degrees scenarios. So in other words, Glasgow Climate Pact has put emphasis on most stringent and most difficult target among the range of temperature rise, 1.5 degrees. And to this end, they have worked out some sort of numerical target aiming at 2050 carbon neutrality globally and 46% reduction by 2030. This is very, very difficult target. And against that backdrop, increasing number of ASEAN countries have also announced their respective carbon neutrality goals. And with that in mind, ERIN, in collaboration with IEJ, have developed some sort of technology deployment scenarios based on cost-optimal deployment scenarios of technologies, and including photovoltaic, onshore, offshore wind, hydro, geothermal, biomass, nuclear, CCUS, hydrogen, ammonia, and DACs and BECCS for achieving 2060 carbon neutrality in the ASEAN region as a whole. And of course, we take into account the different national carbon neutrality goals. In the case of Vietnam, 2050, and in the case of Indonesia, 2060, in the case of Thailand, 2065, and so on. So we have taken into account those different carbon neutrality goals. And also, in considering these technologies, we have identified, expected cost reduction of these technologies, as well as renewable energy potential in the region. So we have done this analysis based on the best available, information, and looking at this power generation mix in the ASEAN, in the baseline and also and also carbon neutrality scenario in 2060, as you can see, renewable energy becomes the main power source in the carbon neutrality 2060, accounting for between 54 to 56% of the total power generation in 2060. But this is already different from carbon neutrality scenarios, which is widely advocated by such an organization as IEA. IEA put more emphasis on renewable, and they say that renewable will account for almost 80% of the power generation globally. But looking at the Asian situation very much closely, we do not think that renewable energy contribution will be as high as 80%. Rather, it would be around 55 or 56% in 2060. And on the content, our ERIN chair and also Mr. Terazawa and others. And quite often, the importance of conventional energy, in particular natural gas, is overlooked in the energy debate, energy transition debate, driven by developed countries. But looking at the dominant role of conventional energy in many developing countries, in particular Asian region, we cannot ignore the role of conventional energy. And if that is the case, then how to effectively reduce carbon footprint from fossil fuel power, that is fuel switching from coal to natural gas. So natural gas is going to play a very much important role. That is a very much important point number one. And in the longer term, of course, CCUS and also co-firing with ammonia and hydrogen, and eventually 100% ammonia and hydrogen combustion will play a very much vital role. But again, that will after 2040. For 2021-2022 outlook, we have updated energy outlook and also tried to produce a low carbon energy transition or carbon neutral scenarios additionally. And for producing this scenario, we have identified energy experts in each ES countries, and with their support, we have developed our own low carbon neutrality scenarios. based on their input. So compared with area IEJ scenario analysis, this is more bottom-up scenarios, taking into account the view of individual countries. And we have, say, divided ASEAN and non-ASEAN ES countries on the left and on the right, respectively, for the sake of comparison. And we have done so because to show the energy transition pathways are very much diverse between ASEAN and non-ASEAN countries. And of course, even among ASEAN countries, there will be a marked difference in terms of energy transition. And also in non-ASEAN ES countries, definitely there will be a big difference because they have US, Japan, Korea, China, India, Australia, New Zealand. And each of them have very much different energy endowment. So, but for the sake of the simplicity, I'd like to just show the difference between ASEAN and non-ASEAN ES countries. And then, still you can see a difference. And one thing which is very much evident is innovative energy efficiency and conservation is indispensable technology and policy for achieving carbon neutrality in both ASEAN and non-ASEAN ES countries. And as you can see, compared with the BAU, business as usual scenario, and APS, the alternative policy scenario, and LSET CN, low carbon energy transition, carbon neutrality scenarios. In the case of low carbon energy transition and carbon neutrality scenarios, you see significantly lower energy demand compared with BAU. So energy efficiency and technology are very much critical for achieving every kind of energy transition. Then looking at power generation, since a carbon neutrality scenario calls for massive electrification, power generation will largely increase. And then looking at power generation mix, ASEAN will continue to depend thermal power plants, 47% out of the total power generation. And most of them install CCUS. And on the other hand, the non-ASEAN ES countries will shift to variable renewable, VRE, solar and wind, and also nuclear from thermal power generation. So there is already a marked difference between ASEAN and non-ASEAN ES countries. In the ASEAN countries, and perhaps it is also the case for India, still the dominant share of fossil fuels. So CCUS is critically important for those countries for achieving carbon neutrality. Retirement of coal power plant will proceed in non-ASEAN ES countries. So again, this is a big difference between because in the ASEAN countries, and also that's also the case for India, the vintage of the existing coal power plants tends to be very much young compared with such countries as Japan, US, and others. So therefore, retirement of the power plant, thermal power plant, coal power plant, will be relatively easier for more advanced countries, while emerging economies like ASEAN and India, that would be very much difficult. So in order to cope with reducing carbon footprint, then CCUS is or coal to gas switching is very much important. So that is quite clear in the bottom left. The orange part, the contribution of CCUS is particularly important. Resources are more limited compared with developed countries, and they have many development agenda, such as say living standard, and also education, healthcare, and so on. So they need to prioritize how to spend their money. So if the energy expense increase, then developing countries will suffer a lot. So prolonged
economic growth, and of course, the attributes of poverty eradication, such as education and so on. And of course, this is the bottom line for developing countries. There is no way that developing countries are going to accept a path of transition which impedes their economic growth and poverty eradication. So I think it is necessary to keep this in mind as the debate proceeds. It has not been sufficiently recognized in the COP as our MC mentioned. I was a negotiator for 12 years from 2001 to 2012, and I know the scene at the COP intimately. So, Professor Adima, he mentioned with respect to the role of natural gas in energy transition, he mentioned some key imperatives. And actually, I find that these imperatives are all reflected in the themes given to the speaker. And very briefly, these include one, the fact of the huge risks inherent in the energy market or in the natural gas market, as of course evidenced by the blowing up of two major natural gas pipelines for geopolitical reasons. I don't know who has done it. Nobody is claiming responsibility, but somebody has done it, and somebody has done it, for achieving geopolitical ends. And if you look at the distribution of major sources of natural gas in the world, we have Russia, we have the US, we have the Middle East, and we have the South China Sea. And of course, three of these regions are, areas, which are, have serious geopolitical questions. And as far as the US is concerned, it is prone to weaponizing, all the assets that it can command. So there is a huge issue about the risks. The second, of course, is that it is to be a transition fuel, but it requires heavy investments, both in retrofitting existing plants to use natural gas, as well as for the infrastructure, pipelines, LNG terminals, LNG carriers, and so on. Then the point is that they need, to operate for a period of time by which they can recoup, by which the investments can be recouped, and that is one challenge. A third, of course, is the challenge that in the Asian region, India, ASEAN, a large proportion of the coal-based infrastructure is of recent vintage, and of course, prematurely retiring them is something that's going to impose very, very significant economic costs. And of course, what we also have is the role of economic development, LG, and this goes to the question of poverty eradication and economic growth. And of course, we have the very interesting case study of the Philippines. And Philippines prospects are very largely centered on the secure availability of natural gas from the South China Sea. And I don't think I need to elaborate on the huge geopolitical risks that are involved in a strategy that is based on the South China Sea. So I think I've said enough, and now would now invite Mr. Hashimoto Hiroshi to make his presentation. So Mr. Hiroshi, you have the floor online.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prodit Ghosh, for kind introduction. And I will try to contain my presentation in 6 or 7 minutes. Can you see my screen? We are impressed with gaps of perceptions between developing and developed economies, and diversity of transition between those economies. Investment into the sector has been emphasized. And for the emission, there have been an inconvenient fact for LNG and gas industry. It is not well recognized by the general public. The majority of methane emissions are from outside of the gas industry, but the industry has now itself has to prove it is contributing to the environment, including the conversion of other fossil fuels into natural gas. And for the issues and countermeasures for the supply issues, demand issues, price, climate, financial. The industry needs to prove itself. It is very important and it is attractive to investment in the future. So this concludes my
future demand in the region of ASEAN and East Asia particularly will be met by the LNG import. In that case, I think it's quite important that to highlight the future risk in terms of volume and price. As you see that recently when we have two major events within this 3 years, is Ukraine, Russian invade Ukraine. I think the line disruption of the supply of natural gas to Russia and Europe. That's why Europe take all the spot LNG markets, which is supposed to be for Asia. And that is quite significant. We never see that the gas price hit over $70 per MMBTU. This is quite not usual, which is the price come to Asia just over 10 or below $10. And if the price is not stable, how are we going to promote this natural gas use in a very stable manner in the region? Because one will lock in to promote natural gas, because 1/3 of the gas will be just this infrastructure will be locked in and used for many years. The same for the Southeast Asia. If we decide to use that, Southeast Asia going to be emerging gas consumption in the future, then I think stability of LNG in terms need to be pretty sure in terms of price and volume, because we ask ourselves whether the natural gas is a commoditized or not on gas to gas, like in Europe as well as in the Henry Hub in the US. So in that case, I think the future use of natural gas subject to many things that need to be discussed if ASEAN and East Asia need to. Of course, we understand that natural gas is quite important. So I will not go to all the slides, but you see that what our prediction is, natural gas, coal oil, natural gas, this fossil fuel will contribute in our energy mix, whatever scenario we predict, whether it's going to be low carbon energy scenario or business as usual, they're going to be there because the energy system already built on this coal oil, natural gas. The phase out had to be gradually, but it had to be very careful, because otherwise the energy cost could be double more than Europe. Because you who so hard for this infrastructure to be early retired, you're going to double investment. First, you invest for refinancing all this coal, early retirement, gas, and others. At the same time, you finance a new system which is clean and renewable. So it affects so this is a significant increase in the future. And if the direction that ASEAN particularly will move toward natural gas.
Going back to my presentation, so to see here that nat gas also provides a significant contribution to our power generation mix, about 16% in 2022. But if we're going to talk about Luzon grid, which is the largest grid in the Philippines, it contributes around 25 to 30%. This is just the final energy consumption. I'll skip this. Let me just go to future of natural gas in the Philippines. So currently the largest source of gas in the Philippines, in Malactayan, in offshore Palawan, will end, or the contract of which will end next year. So to be able for us to secure and maybe explore the adjacent area within the Malactayan. So what are the government initiatives right now? We issued a policy, which is the department policy, to be able for us to be able to promote the midstream natural gas industry in the Philippines, and to be able also to cater for the development of the LNG terminal, because this is the first time that we're going to import gas in the form of LNG. So we have some population projects. We have these gas policy development projects this is in partnership with the
The role of natural gas in economic development. I will just cover what GAIL India Limited and then how this natural gas can contribute towards economic development. This is our mission and vision of the company, that enhancing quality of life through clean energy and beyond. Be the leader in natural gas value chain beyond with the global presence, creating value for stakeholders with environmental responsibility. So clean energy and environmental two are the basic words, which is the things that inherited from our mission and vision. Next is the journey of GAIL that we have started from 1984 and entered into the different segments, that is LPG, CGD, petrochemical, LNG, further expansion on that, and we have acquired some of the assets in foreign also, used to sell it, gas assets, and we are having our LNG individual terminals and partnership with others, and we are having more than 50,000 km of pipeline with us. And we are basically available from exploration to end use, that is city gas, petrochemicals, refineries, fertilizers, petrochemicals, gas pipelines, LPG bottling, port, refineries. We are having presence directly or through equity participations. As on date, we are having more than 74% of share of pipeline, 50% shares of LPG pipeline, gas sourcing 26 million tons, LNG 14 million tons, domestic 12 million tons, and petrochemical we are having 1 million tons of capacity. City gas distribution, more than 60,000 cities of India, we are providing CGD services. Domestic, that is ENP, 10 blocks we are operating, and we are in partnership in Myanmar with other partners, that is overseas we are in presence US, Singapore, Myanmar, China, Egypt, office in Singapore, Yangon, Houston, Moscow. And we are having 5 LPG plants, production capacity 1.4 million tons per annum. And we have 130 megawatt of our, that is renewables, and now we are going in a big way for renewables. And these are the offices all over the world. And these are the some of the subsidiaries, joint ventures, JVs, and we are having the LNG supply agreement from Russia, Gazprom, Qatar, Gorgon, Australia, and Henry Hub. So these are the different portfolios which we are maintaining with our LNG value chain. As far as India is concerned, now we are consuming per day, that is 175 million SCMD gas. Sectoral, that is fertilizer is 30%, power is 15%, CGD is coming in a big way now, it is third one, that is 20%. So natural gas is now going to the houses. It is very much clear that CGD is increasing every year. GAIL portfolio gas system, I think we have already discussed. This is the national gas grid. That is, now all states will be covered. And 10th round, 11th round, and 12th round has come up. So each and every state, city will be covered through natural gas pipelines. As far as terminal is concerned, as on date we are having 6 terminals. It will go to 10 terminals at 1.5 times. It is going to increase, and that is in very short period. That is just by next year. As on date, we are having pipeline of 20,000 kilometers, and by next year it will be 35,000. So whole country will be with the natural gas availability in every cities. And this is the national gas grid. Then you see that maps 2040 that we will be available each and every corner of the country. This is the common carrier gas availability in India, that the pipeline. We are having almost 20,000 kilometers, and overall it will come out to be 35,000 kilometers, all across from different companies. And as on date, we are investing more than 50,000 crore rupees, that is comes out with 6,000 million US dollar in gas value chain, and this is the way we are going for investing in creating the value chain for natural gas. This is the portfolio related to CGD that now 11th and 12th round has covered, and what is the yellow areas, I think 12th round has just announced last week or last week, so whole country is going to cover through CGD networks. As far as energy transitions or our methodology, that lifestyle for environment is the one thing, and how we can reduce our own carbon footprint. Circular economy will play a greater role. Climate finance will be the real impetus for converting from high carbon to low carbon, and we should not forget about that accelerating sustainable development goals, and that poverty can be eliminated if gas is available, that energy is available with affordable price. As on date, gas value chain gives more than 2 million people employment directly or indirectly in this country. And this is the thing that everything is to be kept in mind whenever we are going for transition, and a transition along with climate change hazards. Both should be assessed in such a manner that there should not be a loss of income or living standards, which will create conflict among different societies, and unrest will come. So very calculated, calibrated steps are to be taken for the purpose so that we can smoothly transition towards a better economy, low carbon economy. The best example is this, that how the information technology is gone through all across India. Now that today UPI is also working in European countries, that is France. So that is the way that swiftly we should change to this normal, low carbon economy in the coming 10 to 15 years. And this is the thing that how the world was that, and how as on date that is going to warm up each and every day. So we have to take very calibrated, calculated step to address the issue of that stakeholder which is not having the voice, that is the Mother Earth. The diabetes is 3.5 million affected, and we invest 327 million out of that. Air pollution, 7 million deaths are there, but 632 million are there. So money is there, how we have to channelize the things towards getting a very cooler and environment friendly earth for our coming generations. This is the latest per capita electrical generation. Here we can see that how this coal is being utilized basically in developed economies vis-a-vis to our developing economies. If you will see that Australia, United States, whatever they are consuming as a power from coal, we are having 50% of the per capita consumption on that.
Mr. Tiwari, could you kindly wrap up?
Yeah, just I am wrapping up. I am going very fast.
All this is
Okay. Thank you.
okay. Many, the Vice Chairman of Niti Aayog, in the rank of a cabinet minister, and he's an experienced policy economist and research administrator. He has been with the Royal Dutch Shells. He was Royal Dutch Shells Global Chief Economist based in The Hague from 2012 to 2016. Before that, he was Director General of the National Council of Applied Economic Research in New Delhi. It's a very prestigious institution in India. And prior to joining the NCAR, he was with the World Bank in Washington, D.C., which he joined as a young professional, and he spent many years at the World Bank conducting research on financial sector development and country policy and strategy in many different parts of the world. And his professional writing includes contributions on the political economy of reform, financial sector and banking reform, and energy and policy. He has a master's degree in public affairs from Princeton University School of Public and International Affairs.
So disruptive because I was meant to speak at the end of the day, I couldn't, and the program has been changed to accommodate me. And I'm really here to signify solidarity for the network, for Terry's role in this, and also, I don't know if they're in the room at the moment, to acknowledge the, the link with the IEEJ. Are any of the officials of the IEEJ here at the moment? I don't. Yes. Okay. Because it's been my privilege to speak at the IEEJ shortly after I left Shell. At that time, it was headed by Toyoda-san, and he and I have a link. In fact, we were contemporaries at Princeton, and also Kusaka-san was a contemporary, and so it is something of a rare opportunity to have known three successive vice ministers of METI. So for that reason alone, I wanted to be here to indicate my enormous respect for IEEJ, but also for ERIA. And I don't know who is here from ERIA. Okay. Because my distinguished colleague Dr. Saraswat, I think, is on some advisory groups in energy of area. And, I think the underlying issue, which will be taken up in the afternoon session, which I do understand was a theme of Japan's presidency of the G7 at Hiroshima, and also the members, also the meetings of the energy ministers, was, does one size fit all? Or is there something distinctive about the energy transition in Asia? That's a broad topic, but I very much like the formulation in the overview note about what the Europeans have certainly found, and I was recently at a conference at the Peterson Institute speaking there on behalf of the only representing India, but the only person from an emerging market there. It was really a conversation between Europeans and Americans that the road is bumpy. It's not smooth. And I think that's the reality that is really captured by the issues note for this conference. And I also appreciate the formulation of energy transition rather than simply climate change. Now, India has the presidency of the G20 this year, and there's an energy transitions working group there. But let me also draw attention to the fact that India chose to make much more prominent in its G20 presidency something called the Development Working Group. And I was pleased to attend that meeting, although it was chaired by the Minister of External Affairs. And the focus of the Development Working Group, and indeed of India's G20 presidency, is really to bring attention back to the Sustainable Development Goals, where, yes, sustainability of all kinds is stressed, and certainly it's almost a civilizational goal of India to stress frugality, to stress, as it were, restrain consumption, to stress recycling and all of that. But ultimately, it is to have the energy transition embedded